I want United Way of Jamaica to be the entity that they see as the prestige entity to partner with and feel trusted. They trust us and they feel comfortable knowing that their resources will go in the hands of those it is meant to go in.
Welcome back to another episode of Federal Grants Explained, a podcast created to explain what's happening in the world of federal grants. My name is Patrice Davis. I'm the host of the podcast and the founder and CEO of GrantWin Consulting, formerly GrantsWorks. GrantWin is a grant consulting and training firm based in Atlanta, Georgia, that supports organizations as they find, obtain, manage, and comply with government and private sector grants. As you can tell by the video title, we're doing something very different with this and some of our future episodes. We are featuring grant making and grant recipient organizations around the world. And we're starting with Jamaica. Yes, Jamaica, a cultural, culinary, athletic, business, and education powerhouse, that Caribbean island nation of Jamaica. To get things started, I'd like to point out a few things for our audience. Jamaica is considered an upper middle income country by the World Bank. Based on a 2020 Planning Institute of Jamaica report, the Jamaican economy has evolved into a service-based economy with service sectors including tourism, financial services, real estate, the distributive trades such as wholesale trade and logistics and transportation. It is also considered a, quote, good producing country with related industries such as agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and construction. So far, most of our episodes have been focused on what's happening at U.S. federal agencies. Because I specialize in U.S. federal grants, I speak, train, and write about federal grants and post-award compliance best practices, about how post-award management or mismanagement can impact an organization's grants. And I try to connect the dots between grant funding in general and the positive impact grants can have on people and communities. Well, there are people and communities in the U.S. and, of course, around the world. So I thought it would be great to explore how grants are announced, awarded, and managed in different countries, and how those grants improve people's lives, again, in those countries. But I know I'm not the best one to shape your understanding of the grant ecosystem in other countries. The people in those countries I'll be featuring are the best positioned to do that. So in this first in the Grants Explained Around the World series, I'm starting with Miss Kerry-Lee Lynch, Chief Executive Officer of the United Way of Jamaica. Yes, there is a United Way chapter in Jamaica. I know some of you are probably wondering, what does United Way of Jamaica do? What is their history? What are their primary focus areas? And why haven't I heard of the United Way of Jamaica? Well, all of that will be answered in this interview with Ms. Lynch. Before we get started, though, I wanted to point out a few things. The organization's website and other links are in the episode description below. The organization mobilizes resources to drive sustainable community development, youth programming, educational initiatives in partnerships with local schools, and disaster relief. The organization is both a grant recipient and its subgrants funds to local organizations. And by the way, it has a diverse revenue stream, which Ms. Lynch does describe for us during our interview. I also ask that you stick around because I'll be sharing a few grant funding opportunities in Jamaica, as well as highlighting the people and places that made this episode possible. In fact, for every episode, I'll be spotlighting the people behind the scenes, as well as the interviewee. If you like what you hear so far, please subscribe or follow this podcast and give us a 5-star rating if you're listening to us on a streaming platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. You'll definitely want to subscribe because I'll be featuring another Jamaican NGO or non-governmental organization in an upcoming episode, as well as grant-funded organizations around the world. I'll now let Ms. Lynch tell you about United Way of Jamaica. You'll hear the passion in her voice as she describes what the organization does, its commitment to transparency and accountability through its financial management and its monitoring and evaluation practices. And you'll also hear what motivates her. Hi, this is Patrice Davis, host of Federal Grants Explained, and of course, the CEO of GrantWin. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We are kicking off the first in our Grants Explained Around the World series, and I am joined by Miss Kerry-Lee Lynch, and she's going to tell us about United Way of Jamaica. So, Miss Lynch, if you can tell us a little bit about your role at United Way of Jamaica and how you landed this particular position.
I was actually the project manager before being appointed the CEO. I was actually appointed January 2026 after acting for 6 months in 2025. I managed all the projects. I actually wrote proposals to solicit different grants. And it gave me a certain level of institutional knowledge, which made my transition very easy. I have always loved advocacy, capacity building, especially individual and community-based, and ultimately national level capacity building. And that is how I am where I am today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, this is a great opportunity for you to please provide some more details on United Way of Jamaica, when it was formed, and provide, as much information as you can about the work that United Way of Jamaica does. That would be fantastic.
Yes. So United Way of Jamaica, we were incorporated in Jamaica in 1985. We actually celebrated our 40th anniversary last year, and we had plans to have a grand gala. Unfortunately, around the said time, the island, we were devastated by Hurricane Melissa. So we will be hosting that gala this year, November 2026. We were incorporated through the CVSS, and CVSS is the Council of Voluntary Social Services. They lobbied for a United Way to be in Jamaica as a capacity building to mobilize resources. And we were actually given a grant through USAID, 3 million US, which was matched by the government of Jamaica with a grant valued at 2.2 million US. And that is how United Way of Jamaica came about. Currently, we are a part of a worldwide brand, United Way Worldwide. We have similar impact areas. We're guided by the branding, colors, etc. However, the work we do, it is not influenced by United Way Worldwide. We're a non-government organization, non-part. We're a charitable organization. We do have our charities certificate. And we look at 4 impact areas: youth opportunity, healthy community, financial stability and generation, and also community resilience. So we do most of our projects, most of our initiatives in those areas.
And I'm so glad you provided some details on the initial funding that brought United Way of Jamaica to a reality. You mentioned a USAID grant of over $3 million, if I remember. $3 million.
Yes.
And then US, yes, exactly. Correct. And then an additional 2.2 million in US dollars from the Jamaican government. Correct. And that was a cost match. So for those of you who are watching this in US, very similar terms, grants are awarded. Then, of course, there are cost match obligations, and I'm sure you all are very aware what that entails. And all. One of the things that, of course, United Way of Jamaica does, which is what a number of United Way chapters do in the United States, is they are both a grant recipient and, of course, a grant funding organization. They are a grant making organization. Tell me about some of the most recent check handovers. There's the Jets Limited Fund School Restoration Fund. That was 100 million Jamaican dollars. If you can tell me a little bit about some of the work that will be possible as a result of that grant in terms of your recipient receiving the funds and, of course, subawarding it to different organizations.
Okay. So that 100 million donation was specifically under or Hurricane Melissa Restoration and Rehabilitation Fund. I mentioned just one of our impact area or pillar areas. It is community resilience. Under community resilience, United Way of Jamaica, we have an immediate mandate to act after a natural disaster. So it is no secret the bad girl, Hurricane Melissa, she caused devastating damage on our island, Jamaica. While most were getting ready, preparing with their families, I was engaged in meetings before, during, and after the storm. And while watching the devastation, United Way Worldwide, they engaged us. We have local partners that engaged us to say we have to start the process. Initially, we have, I won't say initially, the target is still 200 million. And I am happy to report that we have raised over $200 million since November to date, and we're still climbing.
Awesome.
That $100 million was donated through JET's multi-link. The multi-link, most Jamaicans should be familiar, and also your US viewers. That is the platform that manages our credit cards or debit cards or day-to-day transactions. Jets Limited, they have been a long-standing partner, not just because of Hurricane Melissa, and I have to highlight them here. They gave us what we call designated funds, and I think in the US terms, it would be restricted and unrestricted. For us, their donation was restricted. So the handing overs that took place for the schools, they would have allocated a certain amount to specific schools, and also the mustard seed community. They were a beneficiary. Of course, they did ask for our guidance and our recommendations, because what I must share is that United Way of Jamaica, we are very big on monitoring and evaluation.
Absolutely.
So a few days after the hurricane passed, my team and I, we were in the field visiting these schools, ensuring that the monies that would be handed over, there is a need for it, and also giving specific guidelines as to how the funds should be used and what is required of them, what reporting is required. Because with over $200 million, there's an accountability that is on United Way of Jamaica.
Of course.
And that is how we were able to mobilize that much funds in such a short time, because we place importance on transparency and accountability and efficiency. So every intervention, every project we do, monitoring and evaluation is attached. So currently, for the schools, they have just submitted their quarterly report that tells us what they have done with the first tranche, because we did not pay over the first tranche. We did not pay over the full amount. We did it in tranches. So they just gave us our report, which my team went through, put together a report that we gave to JETS as our donor for them to feel safe and secure with handing over the second tranche. Apart from the schools, we have actually distributed over 14,000 baby chickens to the farmers. We have distributed over 500 fisherfolks have been impacted and benefited from the funds, because the fund, it was actually developed to aid the agricultural sector. Because we know the agricultural sector, they face one of the largest destruction and devastation after Melissa, and also infrastructure development, which is how our schools come in. We have impacted over 500 poultry farmers, distributed over 14,000 baby chickens and counting.
Hello, my name is Shakira Bartley Pennycook, and I am ever so grateful for these 50 chickens. It can bring me a far way because I am a stay-at-home mom, and this can help me to help provide for my kids. So thank you, JS, and thank you, United Way.
My name is Marin Robinson. I feel good about the chicken. Thank you for helping me.
Hi, my name is Anna Shane Black, and I feel so great today. Trust me, I'm so grateful because after Melissa, everything got destroyed for me, and this is a new start for me. This is great. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, United Way of Jamaica, for what you have done for me.
As a matter of fact, my team was out last week, Friday, and they are heading out tomorrow to distribute some more equipment. We have spent over $20 million to date on distributing to the fisher folks, to the farm, and over 50 million to date distributed to the schools. And we're currently in the process of working with our logistic partner, the Jamaica Agricultural Society. United is always the way. And I do believe that it is important in funds, allocating funds, that you partner with the different entities. My staff, I have about 8 core staff here, females. The capacity, you have to stretch the capacity and ensure that the funds are getting in the hands of those most in need. So we partner with different agencies who they know the landscape, they know the need. They can be that gatekeeper into the communities, and they can be that liaison between us and the beneficiaries. Because what I always want to highlight is we do here, we are a resource mobilization NGO.
And as you're describing everything that you described, I'm just connecting so many dots. Number one, I do want to point out some of the other funds that you've given out based on the report that you've provided. And so Mustard Seed Communities, they received the $5 million grant from the JETS Limited Fund. Hampton School for Girls received $5 million as well. St. Elizabeth Technical High School received $7.5 million. So just wanted to provide more examples to the audience about the funding that's being awarded by United Way of Jamaica as a result of its the grants that it receives from different organizations. But you mentioned a few things. Number one, accountability and transparency, very, very important in the grant world, as I'm sure all of us are very aware of, but also the reporting, making sure that your subgrantees, those are the words I'm going to use, that your subgrantees are providing both progress and financial reports. Your team is probably going out and doing what we would call in the U.S. site visits of some sort. And then I'm also hearing you say that you also engage the communities, meaning that there are some collaborative partnerships already in place. So you truly are mobilizing a variety of resources and then making sure there's accountability on the back end, and then making sure you're submitting a report to the actual donors. So this is very similar to how grant making is structured in the U.S. There's some differences in some of the terms. For example, Ms. Lynch mentioned designated versus undesignated, where in the U.S. we would call that restricted versus unrestricted funding. So very, very, similar terminology, and of course, the structure into the way that you actually carry this out. Now, I do have a question about how you may collaborate with any U.S.-based or Caribbean-based organizations. Any collaborations other than United Way worldwide? Any other collaborations?
Well, currently, we do not have any active collaborations. However, we do have projects that were funded in the past through U.S. collaborations. The U.S. Embassy, for one. Before my time, I know that they funded what we call our Read from the Start project. It's an early childhood education project based on literacy and numeracy development. I did mention earlier, which that is probably the largest collaboration, because that is how we are here in Jamaica, USAID, where they gave us seed funding of $3 million to start our operations. We have partnered before with the UNDP, where they gave us support in institutional capacity building. We have been invited to conferences by the UNDP, where capacity building for my staff. The American Friends of Jamaica, we have collaborated with 3M. And I know that you specifically asked about US-based, but I will also share that we do get funding from Canada. We are beneficiaries of funding from the Canada Leave CUSO shared project, which CUSO is similar to the voluntary organization Peace Corps that USA has, and we have actually collaborated with Peace Corps, where we do presentations to their volunteers, and we invite them to write to us because we are a donor company. as you mentioned before, to solicit grant funding from us. We actually gave the Peace Corps representatives a unique opportunity to submit proposals to us under our Hurricane Melissa grant, because I'm familiar that with the fact that most Peace Corps volunteers are placed in rural communities that are often agricultural based communities. So they get the opportunity to solicit funding from us. So we have it's a very dynamic partnership where we not just try to solicit funds and we not just seek to build our capacity, but we also seek to build the capacity of some US-based organizations as well. So it's a give and take.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So one of the things that kept coming up as you were telling us about all of this amazing work that United Way of Jamaica does is I'm wondering how you engage the diaspora. You mentioned American Friends of Jamaica. Is there I'm thinking a diaspora fund, because there are a lot of us in the diaspora that want to donate to different types of organizations. And I think as a result of Hurricane Melissa, we learned about those that are on the ground doing amazing work. But you are also, as you said, a resource mobilizing organization. So you know exactly how to mobilize the funds.
Yes.
So would love to get your thoughts on that.
My thoughts would be, it is something that we're looking to build out, to improve, to expand. The diaspora, they're always present. What I find is that they're always searching for a trusted organization. It is not that they don't have the desire, the will. It is always that issue of trust and wanting their resources to actually go where they want it to go.
Absolutely.
Currently, we do have somewhat of a relationship where we have gotten donations for Melissa, specifically Hurricane Melissa, through it was channeled through United Way worldwide because they're US based. However, we know that it was from the Jamaican diaspora. Example, United Way Miami, they actually worked with us to try to see how we could engage our people. But it is a area where I would say that we're looking to build on. To let people know that United Way of Jamaica, we are here, we are trusted, we will show the accountability and the transparency, and your resources are safe with us.
Absolutely. And the fact that, you've been around since 1985, you have, amazing collaborative partnerships on island and off, and of course, as you said, with Canada, US, and different types of organizations. And that doesn't come, that comes with years of experience, that comes with trust, right? Relationship building and accountability, and as you mentioned, transparency. So you all receive funding from donations. You receive grants, and of course, volunteer time is in-kind funding. Where would you like to see an increase? Grants, donations? Of course, we can always accept volunteer time. You always can utilize volunteers for different kinds of projects. Where would you like to see a growth in terms when you look at all three?
If I can be overly ambitious, all three.
Of course, of course.
I say that because I mentioned before that I am newly appointed. We're in Q2, however, still fresh. And the work that we do here at United Way of Jamaica, it is great. We do big work. However, we need to do more. We need to be more present internationally and locally. We will achieve that is by expanding all three areas you just mentioned. So where grant funding, the opportunities are there. Sometimes they are limited based on the projects that we specialize in. Opportunities are there. I will speak on the fact that currently what I am trying to do is get United Way of Jamaica seen as the mobilization NGO in Jamaica for resources. I have meetings coming up where I'm looking to sit with. We have a United Way Worldwide conference in June, where United Way Worldwide invited the Caribbean and Latin America to visit Washington, D.C. A part of the conference is to give us an opportunity to meet with our different U.S. ambassadors. We're looking to tap into the European grants. We're looking to expand our footing in Canada. Where volunteers are concerned, we will need more volunteers because we will be expanding.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I would say all three areas.
Yeah. So what would you say, what program attracts the most funding? I'm going to add a second question to that. Before the camera started rolling, Ms. Lynch provided a very good breakdown of the different sources of funding, different types of individual giving, different types of business giving, workplace giving programs. Again, very similar to the structure that we have in the U.S., and I'm sure that's very similar to other parts of the world as well. But would love you to please let me know, number one, which program attracts the most funding, because you did say that quite a bit of the funding grants that you seek are project-based grants.
Correct.
So I'm curious to know which attracts the most, and which one you would actually need more funding for. And then I guess the third part of that is we can describe the different types of giving programs you have as well.
Okay. Currently, the impact areas that attracts the most grants would be under youth opportunity. And under youth opportunity, we have projects that are based in numeracy and literacy development. I mentioned before, Read Right from the Start, that has been funded by the U.S. Embassy. Then we have Chase Fund. Chase Fund is Jamaica. It's the Culture, Health, Arts, Sports, and Education Fund that is locally based. We actually have our cohort 3 from Read from the Start. That program is actually active, and Chase was the funder. We have youth opportunity projects where we looked to do capacity building for what we call youth at risk. So we do life skills training, cognitive behavioral therapy, we do employability training, and we also do mentoring because it is very important. Sustainability is important for United Way of Jamaica. So we never look to just implement a project and execute and then report, yes, the KPIs were met. There is also sustainability. And that is where I find that a lot of grants, they have incorporated in their proposal guidelines, how will your project be sustainable?
Absolutely.
So it is something that we have been practicing over the years. And I would say that youth opportunity attracts the most. Of course, we do have natural disasters. It's the issue of climate change.
Yes.
We are facing the impact of that in Jamaica, where we had Hurricane Beryl and then followed Hurricane Melissa. And I want to note that United Way of Jamaica, we actually did Hurricane Beryl Restoration Fund for the farm, where we raised over $12 million. Melissa is far more devastating, so the level of impact. And when it comes on to natural disasters, our experience goes as back as Hurricane Ivan, where we were actually able to mobilize over 290 million Jamaican dollars.
Wow.
And it was a similar framework to our Melissa restoration. And your viewers might be wondering, why am I bringing up Ivan, which is years ago? But it is to show how we frame our projects to secure grants.
Absolutely.
We have a tested and proven framework.
Yeah.
Because the framework for Melissa, it is agricultural based and infrastructure. And the framework for Hurricane Ivan, it was also agricultural and infrastructure. And the same partner, Jamaica Agricultural Society, is the same partner we have now. So it's a tested, executed, and proven intervention. And grants, a lot of time I find that donors, they ask about your experience. So I believe it may be a similar case, because we do have grants where we write proposals for US-based grants, Canada-based grants, and they do ask, what is your experience in the area?
Absolutely.
Yeah. The area where I would say we need some improvement, where grants are available, it would be health. A healthy community is one of our impact areas. I can be honest to say that we had support for. We have, since of late, actually last month, we had a prospective donor that they were looking to do a sanitization project, but it is not often that I see calls that are based for health. How we ensure that we carry out the impact area health in Jamaica is we fund projects. So we will fund healthcare for low-income communities. We will fund operational capacity building for rural community health clinics and health organizations. And we will fund, we actually have a new donor under Hurricane Melissa where they're looking to hand over $20 million to a healthcare facility in Jamaica. So what we try to do is in every initiative, every project, you always see the impact area. But I would say health. We need to improve where health is concerned.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'd like to point out to the audience is we talked earlier about the difference between project-based funding and in the U.S. we would call it general operating. And I'm happy to hear that organizations that are funding United Way of Jamaica, they are very clear. This is where we want to direct our funds, even sometimes offering suggestions on what the recipients should be. You mentioned earlier that as the, as the expert, so to speak, you also do provide some insight on where you think those funds may be better served.
Correct.
So really, really glad that you're, providing a complete picture for the audience. We also spoke earlier off camera, and I definitely want to make sure that we get this on camera as well, is your monitoring and evaluation.
Yes.
So if you can describe for the audience your approach to monitoring and evaluation and its importance in grant seeking and transparency and accountability.
Okay. I think I did touch on it a bit earlier in our conversation, where monitoring and evaluation, it's a very important aspect of projects and initiatives, and just not even projects, but operation day to day. What I find a lot of donors, when they are putting out calls, they do ask, what will be your M&E framework? And we try to take the qualitative and quantitative approach where we collect data. We do surveys. We try to have a regular, what you call, having the beneficiaries gather, having conversations with them. We also do what we call a pre and post test because we want to measure and see the change.
Absolutely.
We will have M&Es, for example, read from the start, where we actually do pop-up at the schools and we go in the classroom and see if the teachers are using the techniques, etc. And we will ask the principal to provide us with data that shows the change in numeracy and literacy. So it's a very important aspect of our projects and initiatives. Even projects where the KPIs are not so based on outcomes such as increasing literacy and numeracy, a change in maladaptive behavior for youth at risk. We have a very unique project called Bringing Cheer to Children in State Care. And that is how we end the year annually. That project is where we bring over 200 children from state care to watch a movie in the cinema. I will say cinema, so your viewers are, yes, they're better able. The culture is different. We say movies.
Yes,
But the cinema. And this is actually the first for most of these children. And we're able to pull donors. Scotiabank, they are actually our title. They were our title sponsor last year, and they are looking to be our title sponsor this year again for that initiative. And the monitoring and evaluation is still there, where we have to collect all the names of the beneficiaries, where they are located. We have to collect the time that they showed up, the time they left. We try to ask, how did this make you feel? We ask the caretakers, how are the students acting after the movie? So it's never just a develop, execute, end. There has to be some document. And that is very important because that is how an organization shows its accountability, the transparency.
So tell me about the Restoration and Rehabilitation Fund. If you can provide as much information as you know that our viewers and listeners would be interested in learning.
Sure. So it's the Hurricane Melissa Restoration and Rehabilitation Fund. United Way of Jamaica, we have a mandate to provide immediate response to any natural disaster, and that falls under community resilience pillar. The fund, it is geared solely towards the agricultural sector, meaning we're looking to aid fisher folks, farmers, ruminant farmers, greenhouse farmers, livestock farmers, fisher folks where they lost boats, engines, nets, something as simple as a life jacket.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And then we have the infrastructure development aspect where, as I said, Hurricane Melissa, it really devastated the western of the island. And we actually selected the 7 parishes that were most badly affected, where we partnered with the Jamaica Agricultural Society. And the Jamaica Agricultural Society, it is an agricultural-based organization in Jamaica, where they provide support to our farmers and fisher folks. So they are our logistic partners, and we go into the different communities, the different parishes, and we do what we call assessments of the needs of the farmers, and we distribute based on the need. We partner with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. We've actually had the Honorable Minister Floyd Green present at multiple distribution, which speaks to our state partnership.
Absolutely.
And we're looking now to partner with the Ministry of Health to do the handing over to a healthcare facility. Really, it's what it's called, restoration and rehabilitation. I want to make it clear to your viewers, locally and internationally, that you will hear me say it over and over. We're a resource mobilization organization. We are in it for the long-term restoration. So a lot of organizations are known for relief.
Yes.
We did provide short-term relief while doing our assessment, because of course we cannot go into the communities 1 week after the devastation asking, what did you lose? What are the needs? Because I always try to take a socioeconomic standpoint for these type of things, the person as a whole. So we started at the immediate, we gave relief packages. However, with giving those relief packages, we did our assessments for long-term, because United Way of Jamaica, we're a long-term organization. We focus on rehabilitation and restoration, not so much relief. So that is what we're currently doing. We're currently bringing hope, restoring livelihoods, and trying to aid Jamaica, the government, in really getting the financial aspect of the country up and running. You know, the breadbasket parishes, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, they were badly affected. So we're looking to help to restore the food availability. And that also affects our tourism industry.
Absolutely.
So we look at the whole, the picture as a whole, not just the no.
Yeah. And I'm glad you made the distinction between relief, providing, relief versus, as you mentioned, a longer term approach. Again, the resource mobilization requires you, quite frankly, to think long term.
Correct.
And it's actually built into, when you apply to grant funding organizations and they ask about sustainability, that's actually built into or baked into your mission, so to speak.
Correct.
And so it's, I'm sure, something, and then you also have, as you mentioned, frameworks that you can rely on to say, in this kind of scenario, this is the framework we'll apply. This is how we'll measure it to make sure that our framework is standing up to, the way it's designed and whether or not it was, the best situation or the best thing to apply in this particular situation. So it's not being made up as you go along.
No.
And so, and I know this a lot, but I want to make sure that the viewers and listeners are thinking big picture about the way the United Way of Jamaica works. So I have 2 more questions for you, Ms. Lynch. Do you think United Way of Jamaica's contributions are well known in Jamaica? And why or why not?
Okay. Before I answer that question, there was a part C of the
Yeah.
question you
Yeah.
asked prior,
Yeah.
where you wanted me to touch on the donor,
Yes.
the donor part of the company.
Yeah.
I know that in some NGOs, they have what's called a community-led decision-making process for giving. At United Way of Jamaica, we have more of what you call the exponent philanthropy framework, meaning we set the criteria, we set the guidelines. We give you a template that you fill out with your proposal. And oftentimes, the guideline falls within our 4 impact areas. I believe every organization, you have to have your niche, what you're known for.
Absolutely.
And we try to stick to our niche. So we do our call annually. There are times where we select certain geographical locations in Jamaica. This year we did an open call. Organizations, civil service societies, not just community-based organizations, because a lot of times people, they mix up community-based organizations thinking that is the only civil service society. You have churches, you have community groups, you have groups that are not yet registered, but they can be sponsored by a government-based NGO, etc. So we do a call to civil society organizations. They get the chance to submit their proposals. It is not, the onus is not on me to select.
Yes.
I have a committee. As a matter of fact, every department here, we have a campaign and funding committee, we have a finance committee, we have a projects committee, and we have an executive board. So the projects and programs committee, they will review the grants. We have a metric, which goes back to our that we have certain requirements that they're graded on.
Yes.
And that is how we select our beneficiaries. Annually, we give about 3.5 million in funding to different organizations. This year, active, currently, we have 5 organizations, one of which is the Disabilities Foundation of Jamaica, where we have funded their project. So that is really the framework for the. And I want to also share, I have a lot of information to share.
And I love it. That's
I want to also share that how we fund or call for proposal, it is not through funds that we have solicited. We solicit funds for specific projects. We have a very unique framework to how we raise funds. We have what we call a cess giving campaign. The cess giving campaign is where we appeal to different corporate organizations in Jamaica, known organizations, where we invite them to partner with us and they give us a percentage of sales on a product, on a good, on a service. And that is undesignated. So we get to put that in our pool to give to others. We have our workplace giving. I want to share that the Jamaica Constabulary Force is actually annually for quite some time. They have been our largest workplace givers for over a few years.
Wow.
Yes. And I even mentioned Scotia Bank.
Yeah.
We have actually gotten support from Scotia Canada, as well as our local Scotia. And they're actually one of our awardees at our upcoming. So that is how we fund our donor aspect of the company. Now to the big question. And I have to be careful in how I answer this one because of my marketing officer. What I will say is one of my mandates and what I want my legacy to be at United Way of Jamaica is what I call my brand refresh.
Yes.
Because I know, I'm not asking, I know
Yes.
that through this interview, it will be the first time
Yes.
a lot of individuals internationally and locally, they are hearing about United Way of Jamaica.
Yeah.
And it is sad because we have been actively working for the Jamaican people since 1985.
Yeah.
And we're still working. When I go to different organizations for the workplace giving campaign to solicit funds, because how the workplace giving campaign work, it's really appealing to different companies, workers, to give to us.
Yes.
Give us a portion of your salary, not a large portion,
Yes.
but something as small as 2%.
Absolutely.
And when I present, they're like, how is it that we don't know about you?
Yeah.
And when we're able to show our donors, I can share with you for Hurricane Melissa,
Yes.
I can go to my finance manager and say, pull this data for me to share with our donor.
Yeah.
And I can show exactly where your money went.
Yes. Exactly.
And the agreed administrative fee, because we do have to operate,
of course,
that is the amount you will see coming out of the fund.
Yes.
And the impact we have in Jamaica, we are nowhere close to where our presence should be.
Yeah.
And I say it with no apology, we are the resource mobilization NGO in Jamaica. It is what we're known for. It is our niche. It is what we do. And I find a lot of corporate companies, they reach out to us before we reach out to them. For Hurricane Melissa, I had over 5 companies in Jamaica reaching out to us before I started to reach out. And that's a reason.
Yeah.
The trust, the accountability, the effectiveness and the efficiency. So it's my mandate. I have what's called a grand brand refresh, and I'm currently actually looking for partners to aid me funding this in kind and dollar figure wise, because I need to get out there. And I say I because I see United Way of Jamaica as me. I am the face of United Way. It is my mission to get us out there. And I am hoping it won't happen overnight, but in the next 3 to 5 years, similar to how other organizations, you know them. If I ask you, and I apologize for calling, if I ask you, do you know Food for the Poor?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That is how I want. Do you know United Way of Jamaica? It should be a yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. They mobilize resources.
Yes.
They will help you in youth opportunity. They will fund your project. If you have a school and you have a program or a classroom and you need it retrofitted, you can write to us and we will look at funding it or getting the resource for you. So the answer is no. No. I am committed to getting us there.
You know, as you're describing everything, I'm getting chills because first, what I'm gonna do for the audience that may be listening. I want to break down quite a few things that she said. Number one, and clarify or correct me if my interpretation is correct. When you say your call for proposals, the way I interpret it is in the U.S. we release what's called a request for application, so that organizations can submit an application for the grant that you plan on awarding. And I believe you said that there are 4 core areas that you provide grants in, and you make sure that they submit the grant using your application, your template, and that they're very clear. Not only must you submit using this application, here are the ways that you are going to be evaluated, which of course ties to the things that you are doing when you're conducting your M&E. So I'm connecting the dots for the audience. I also want to connect the dots for people who may be in the US, and when you go to certain stores, you may go to a Target or a Walmart, and they ask you if you want to donate, if they want to round up, your transaction from, let's say, $5.25 to a rounded $6, so that 75 cents can go to whatever organization. United Way of Jamaica has something very similar, where they partner with organizations. And I remember you said that there may be a company where certain appliances, the sales of certain appliances, a certain percentage of those sales would be awarded to United Way of Jamaica as well. So again, trying to connect the dots, and I'm again getting chills because this is what I love. I love the impact that grant making organizations have on communities, and that's part of the reason why I launched this particular series. And one other thing I definitely want to point out is, when I asked about how well known the organization is, I've actually had our companies actually serve several United Way chapters in the United States. So when I saw that there was a United Way of Jamaica, and I'm a Jamaican, I was so excited.
Yes.
So that's why I reached out. I was like, oh my goodness, United Way of Jamaica. Again, we've served 3 different United Way clients for providing different kinds of grant related services. So I'm very, very happy for the opportunity to be a part of your your goal to shine a light on the work that the organization is doing. So, I commend you for it. I absolutely agree that that is something that's a really core part of, again, making sure more and more people know about United Way of Jamaica. I do also want to point out in the U.S., one of the key roles of an executive director or CEO of a nonprofit or an NGO is to be the face of the organization, right? To be that person that, people know, okay, well, this is the person we want to contact when we want to, So awesome. Very glad that you guys are doing that. And this is the final question, and I do appreciate your time. What are the 3 most important details you'd like your viewers and listeners to know about United Way of Jamaica?
We are the
I love it.
we are the resource mobilizers.
Yes.
NGO in Jamaica. If you have a resource, you want it mobilized, whether it's to a specific designated fund or restricted fund,
Yes,
or unrestricted, reach out to us. We're currently looking for partners to build our capacity, to expand our reach. I said it before. I have a core staff of around, I think I said 8 before, I'll put it to 10. And we do great work. We partner with different local and international organizations. So we ensure that we have a large reach. We're looking for partners. I mentioned the cess giving campaign. We're actually currently trying to secure a cess giving campaign. It can be locally or internationally. I want to touch on internationally because we have United Way worldwide, where if you have any concerns, whether taxes, etc., we're able to work with our parent organization to have that all worked out and in your favor. So we're looking for international and local partners. We actually have a new flagship project we're looking to launch called Youth for Greatness, where we're looking to have at least 5 high schools annually be a part of this project, at least 25 beneficiaries who are at-risk youth, and we're looking to train them in cognitive behavioral therapy, financial literacy, employability training, life skills training, paired with mentorship. So we can steer them in a different direction. We can help them with their maladaptive behavior to improve it. And we're also monitoring these beneficiaries between a 6 to 1 year period to see the change. Our gala is coming out. That is a fundraising.
Yes, I was going to ask if that was a fundraiser as well.
Yes.
Awesome.
So we are celebrating 40 years of our great work in Jamaica, but it is also a fundraising. It is a fundraising initiative where we're currently selling tickets. We have a website, www.unitedwayofjamaica.org. We have an Instagram page. It's at United Way of Jamaica. We take donations through our website. If you're trying to donate and you're not sure how to, reach out to our office. Reach out to our office and we will definitely aid you in that. And we're here and we want to get out there. We want the Jamaicans to feel our presence, because I always say united is the way. We're with our Jamaicans before, during, and after any storm. And we're really looking to build our partnership with state as well, because state is very important.
Absolutely.
And we want to form a relationship, of course, with our U.S. ambassadors or U.S. allies, because where I want to see United Way of Jamaica, it's not just locally but internationally recognized.
Absolutely.
We're looking to build our country on an international scale, where we have donors coming in, partnering with us, wanting to work in literacy and numeracy of our children, looking to help us in health. And I want United Way of Jamaica to be the entity that they see as the prestige entity to partner with and feel trusted. They trust us and they feel comfortable knowing that their resources will go in the hands of those it is meant to go in, and it will.
It absolutely will. Absolutely will. I'm sure you all can see and sense the seriousness and the commitment and the drive in Miss Lynch. And I'm so happy for this opportunity to meet you, to learn more about United Way of Jamaica, and to learn about the amazing work that the organization is doing on the ground, through its partners. So I do also want to make sure I close out by inviting. There are many Jamaican returnees. There are many people in the diaspora that are looking for ways to, give back to their country of birth. And I say, reach out to United Way of Jamaica, go to their website. They accept donations on their website. We've heard Miss Lynch talk about the accountability in the processes that she has in terms of the grant the receiving and the awarding of their subgrants. This is certainly an organization that we should all know more about. And I'm very, very happy for the opportunity to be able to help shine a light on this amazing organization. Thanks again, Ms. Lynch. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So now you know more about the United Way of Jamaica and its role as a resource mobilization organization. Again, you can easily find the link to the website below where you can learn more and donate directly to the organization. I'd like to thank Ms. Lynch and her awesome team for accommodating me. A special thank you to Lorianne Cooper, the Marketing and Communications Officer at United Way of Jamaica. She was really, really critical in making this interview happen. So hats off, Lorianne, for making this a reality. I'd also like to thank the professionals at Infinity Integrated Communications Limited. And you're going to actually see their website on the screen. And of course, I do have a link to that company in the episode description below. That includes both CEO Shanoy Cooper and Rayon Anderson. I actually learned about Infinity Integrated Communications Limited when I served as an MC at an event in Kingston, Jamaica last year. I was so impressed by Rayon's professionalism and just the way that he approached the work and how well he worked with everyone in the room. And I immediately sought them out when I came to Jamaica because I knew I wanted to work with them again. So highly, highly recommend that company. They've been around for a while. They specialize in this work. And I really do believe in spotlighting other small businesses such as ourselves, and making sure that they, get their kudos as well. I'd also like to thank this show's producer, Matt Wong of Graftable. Matt's been a cornerstone of this podcast, as well as my other podcast, Age Has No Limit. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, it's Age Has No Limit podcast. You can find it here on YouTube. And of course, you can also find it on Spotify, Apple, and anywhere podcasts can be heard. As a reminder, if you like what you hear so far, please subscribe or follow this episode and give us a 5-star rating if you're listening on a streaming platform such as Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or Pocket Cast. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. So I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that I was going to share a few grant funding opportunities for individuals and business owners in Jamaica. Before I get started, I am sharing information that has already been featured, so much of this is not new information. But this part of the episode is meant to, number one, feature grants that may, and I say may, still be available to eligible entities. Two, to showcase a variety of grant funding opportunities in Jamaica, since that is what this podcast is about. And I really do want to go back to emphasizing that the grants that I feature may still be available. I actually read a 2025 article in the Jamaica Observer noting that 2 of the grants that I mentioned are on hold. And again, that is as of 2025. I'm not sure where things are in 2026, but I highly recommend that you do your own dig in, find out what's the status of those particular grants and when you can actually apply. This is a service we typically provide for our clients. We do a deep dive into, to grant research and find out quite a few things about available grant funding. In this case, we did a little bit of cursory searching just to find out what grants made sense for this audience. But then, we did not do any further digging to find out exactly where things are with whether or not they have been funded again by the original source of funding. So again, read a 2025 article noting that 2 of the grants I'll mention are on hold because the Development Bank of Jamaica was seeking additional funding. And the third reason I wanted to showcase some of these grants was it's important for viewers and listeners to be aware that there have been efforts by various entities to support micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in the country, because I think sometimes that information may not, be featured or highlighted or come to the fore. And I think it's important for folks to understand that grant making, awarding grants, all of those things are happening in the country of Jamaica, just like it happens in many other countries around the world. And I just wanted to, again, use this opportunity to provide you with real examples of grants that are available. Let's start with the IGNITE grant. And IGNITE stands for Innovation Grant from New Ideas to Entrepreneurship. Now, this is grant funding that is or was part of the BIGEE, which stands for Boosting Innovation, Growth, and Entrepreneurship Ecosystems Program. IGNITE is intended for eligible innovative startups or entrepreneurs and small businesses. The grant assists in idea development, commercialization, or scaling of new products or services. Grants are awarded in 2 categories. There's the ideation, a category, and that's for up to $3 million Jamaican dollars, or approximately 20,000 US dollars. Those funds support new ideas for emerging technologies that have the potential to become a viable high-growth business. Then there's the commercialization category, and those are grants for up to 7 million Jamaican dollars, again, around approximately 45,000 US dollars. And these funds support activities to enable the commercialization of new ideas or technology, and will focus on supporting emerging technologies at the early stage of commercialization. Eligible IGNITE categories include, and this isn't the full list, these are just the 5 of the 7 or so categories that I happen to find. They include software and ICT, agri-tech, light manufacturing, and climate change. If you want to know a few of the organizations that are or were grantees, those include Kalila Reynolds Media Limited and Adtelligent Limited. Many of you, of course, are familiar with Kalila Reynolds Media Limited. She has, a very successful YouTube channel where she features financial news. She's been on several, television and I think even radio stations in Jamaica. So many of you are familiar with Kalila. So her company, Kalila Reynolds Media Limited, was actually one of the IGNITE and grantees. The IGNITE grant has also resulted in 82 early stage businesses receiving support across cohorts. So they use a cohort-based approach, and those include agro-processors and tech startups. Then there's the Innovation Grant Fund, or the IGF. The IGF provided grants to support medium-sized Jamaican businesses with innovative projects to grow their businesses. The grants must be used to assist in the development and commercialization of new products, services, processes, or new business models. So the donor agency for that particular grant is the Development Bank of Jamaica. And again, it is a part of the Big E program that I mentioned earlier. Eligible applicants or eligible recipients are medium-sized Jamaican companies with an annual revenue between 75 million Jamaican dollars and 250 million Jamaican dollars. They must be registered for at least 3 years and operating in a productive sector. To learn more about the initial source of the funding, how to apply, about grant amounts, the compliance requirements, and several of the previous recipients, visit the link in the episode description below. I did want to also point out a few of the documented outcomes of this particular grant, and those documented outcomes include 31 businesses supported, a 25% average increase in employment among IGF recipients, and 400 million Jamaican dollars total dispersed to 30 firms across 4 sectors. So again, imagine that's 31 businesses supported, and of course, of the 31, 30, according to these the data here, received 400 million Jamaican dollars. And so let's think about the businesses and the some of the progress they were able to make. Maybe they were able to hire someone part-time. So obviously there are jobs included. So again, I'm always trying to tie grant funding to the actual results on the ground. So grants are, again, they're just, as I was explaining to someone earlier, they are a really important part of many economies. And sometimes people are not necessarily connecting that $5,000, $50,000, $500,000, $5 million grant to the impact on the ground. As a matter of fact, in the U.S., you could get a grant for as low as $500. And that's $500 US dollars. And Walmart is one of those companies that is a starter source of funding for many, many brand new nonprofits. This is the first place and many organizations go to get their first grant. And some would say, well, that's only $500. Well, they can do a lot with the $500, right? And that's the starting point. Maybe their next time is to apply for a $5,000 grant, another time a $50,000 grant. We all have to start somewhere. And I just want to, again, use this as an opportunity to talk about how important grant funding is in the U.S. as well as, of course, countries around the world. So the third grant I'm featuring is the Rehabilitation Assistance Grant that is awarded by the Jamaica Ministry of Labor, even though the grants are administered through MLSS or Ministry of Labor and Social Security parish offices. These grants are for, quote, low-income individuals and families who are unable to access other financing schemes. It should be noted that according to online sources, a social worker must assess the need. Applications are made through the MLSS parish office, and then the grant may be used for purchasing stock, raw materials, equipment, or tools for micro enterprises. So, I wanted to make sure that as I feature grants that are available, that yes, some are going to be for businesses, others are for individuals who want to start a business. They want to start a micro enterprise. And as I mentioned before, we all have to start somewhere. And this is, one of the ways that the government provides funding to individuals in the country. The grants are $80,000, 80,000 Jamaican dollars. And again, for some folks, they may poo-poo the amount. They should not. Again, we all have to start somewhere. I did mention the $500 grants that Walmart does award to many, many brand new nonprofits or emerging nonprofit organizations in the U.S. I do want to point out there is a rolling deadline. To learn more about the compliance requirements, examples of the types of recipients, and documented outcomes for this particular grant, I provided a link below. So as I shared earlier, GrantWin is a grant consulting and training firm based in Atlanta, Georgia, that supports our clients as they find, obtain, manage, and comply with government and private sector grants. We train your teams to manage its grants, help you identify compliance gaps, monitor and modify award budgets, set up financial management systems, develop required written policies and procedures, and become audit ready. You can learn more about me, the host of the podcast, and GrantWin in the details below. Also, please check out the links in the description below to learn about GrantsWorks Academy, soon to be called GrantWin Academy, including the Federal Grant IQ Training Series and the GrantWin Grant Collective membership. By the way, much of the training that we offer is accredited for CEUs and CPEs by NASBA, by CFRE, and GPCI. If you're curious to know what those organizations are, we will go ahead and spell that out in the episode description below. So that's it for this episode of Federal Grants Explained and our special series, Grants Explained Around the World. It's at this point that I ask you for your feedback. So I'm considering changing the name and focus of the podcast to focus on grant-funded organizations and, again, the grant ecosystem in countries around the world. So Federal Grants Explained may be changed to Grants Explained Around the World. But I'd love to get your thoughts about it. Maybe you want us to continue focusing on U.S. federal grants, or maybe you're interested in learning about the grant ecosystem and the grant industry around the world. And of course, that's exactly where we're leaning. But, we do want to get your feedback. So there are two ways you can provide that feedback. Number one, you can drop a comment below. Or you can complete our 1-question survey that's asked this very same question using the link below. Again, it's just 1 question, right? So that's 2 clicks. A click to open up the survey and a click to say yes or no to provide us with your feedback. Not too much that we're asking of you, so please go ahead and provide us with your feedback. So again, I'm Patrice Davis, the host of the Federal Grants Explained podcast. Thanks for watching or listening to the show. Until the next episode, goodbye.